Hey YouTube, Twig here, bringing you all an update to my Ryzeal Evilswarm Zodiac deck profile for April 2025. This is one of my favorite decks to use, so I figured it's been a while since the last update to this rank 4 Xyz deck, with the main focus of this deck just being complete lockdown of your opponent, with the ideal goal being able to set up all three of the different Xyz variants that we run in this deck, being Ryzeal, Detonator, our Evilswarm Ovion, and then the wide variety of Zodiac monsters that we run in the deck. I know that this deck has been hit with the power scale since we still have some Zodiac cards on the ban list. It really did hurt, back in 2014, I believe, when we were trying to mix the Ryzeals with the Evil Swarms, combined with the new support for the Zodiacs that we got at the time. But I figured I'd show you all my take on this deck in 2025 with what we have to work with now, since the support for the deck has been kind of lacking since the last decade. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the Ryzeal part of the engine. Standard Ryzeal setup. We're running 3 copies of X Ryzeal. Just having your send and setup with this card is very important for the deck, because you want to be able to send cards off of it to special summon it and then give you another search for a Fire Thunder Ryzeal. It really doesn't limit you for the other plays in the deck, with Evil Swarms and Zodiac still focusing on rank 4 Xyz plays. You're really not locked out of anything else that you can do with this deck. We're also running 3 copies of Ice Ryzeal, just more of a special summon searcher, being able to once again grab our X Ryzeal off of this card, and then once again not restricting you, aside from the fact that if you use it for its special summon play. We're running 1-ofs for the Sword Ryzeal and the 1-of Node Ryzeal. Node's always been a 1-of for the many years it's been out now, but Sword Ryzeal, just go to 1 on the OCG ban list. So I'm just taking it as kind of a precaution. If they are to hit anything for this card on the ban list, maybe it would be Sword for the TCG as well. So we're going to put it at 1 for this deck list. And you also want to make room, because we have the other 2 engines for the deck that we're trying to add into the support for this deck as well. So 1 of copies for both of these is fine. For the actual Zodiac engine, we're running 3 copies of Zodiac Thoroughblade, having the option, if it's normal or special summon, to discard 1 Zodiac card and draw 1 card. An Xyz monster whose original type is Beast Warrior that has this card as Xyz material gains the effect if it attacks a defense monster, inflict piercing battle damage to your opponent. So you have the option to just use 1 Xyz monster you have for the summon of your Beast Warrior Zodiac monsters. As I said before, Dryden and Broadbull are still banned, sadly, so can't run them in this deck for the full power. It was definitely a different time in Yu-Gi-Oh! When you could combo Detonator with Dryden on the field for just more and more pop power. But 3 Thoroughblade along with the 3 Whiptail and then the 1 copy of Bunny Blast just help for consistency for getting out your different Xyz monsters when you're not locked into the rank 4 plays. You can also use your Zodiac and your Ryzeal monsters to go for some pretty fun utopic overlay Xyz plays as well, using those monsters to get out a monster negate on top of everything else. For the Evilswarm engine, I would say the Evilswarm engine is a little smaller, just because it's probably the most consistent of the level 4 monsters we run in the deck. 2 copies of Heliotrope and 3 copies of Evilswarm Mandragora. You just have the special summon power with Mandragora, being able to summon this card out if your opponent controls more monsters than you. You can grab Heliotrope off of cards like Unexpected Die, and then from there you have the 2 monsters needed to overlay into probably the strongest Xyz monster in the entire extra deck, being your Evilswarm Ophion. Having this means your opponent can't summon out level 5 or higher monsters, meaning this card can pretty much get around the entirety of the Blue Eyes White Dragon deck, aside from a couple Link monsters here and there. And then for the rest of the main deck monsters, we're running 2 copies of Effect Veiler and 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joy Spring. You just always got to have your hand traps in these decks. They help with the cards that you run, and you really almost never brick with what you have in this deck. Depending on the cards you open up with, you can make a pretty good rank 4 Xyz play. The hand traps are just here to give you an additional push with those cards. Now, before we get to the spells, we're going to take a quick break and just have a booster pack opening. I just have this pack of Soul Burning Volcano. You never know, we could pull a Salmon Great card from this pack. So if we pull 1 Salmon Great card, I'm pretty happy with the results there. So we have the 1 copy of Battle Boxer Switch Hitter, the Volcanic Eruption, the Salmon Great Revive, the Salamangreat Circle, and the Salamangreat Spinny. So I got a little scared there at the end, but we did pull 3 out of the 5 cards, being the Salamangreat monsters. I thought maybe Battling Boxers would have been a nice addition to the deck as well, but, you know, wanted to stick with what the meta is known for this deck. The main people that ran it during hat format always ran Ryzeal mixed with Zodiacs, and then the added Evilswarms. That was just the combo to go for with this deck. Now moving on to the actual spells for the deck. 3 copies of Bonfire. All these spells mostly just consist of search options for our 3 main archetypes in the deck. Bonfire being able to search out the good majority of the Ryzeal monsters we run. The 3 copies of Tenki search out the Zodiac monsters that we run. And then the final spells being the Unexpected Die, while not being able to search out Mandragora, can search out Heliotrope, which is one of the better Evilswarms to begin with, because then you can just summon it off of this card and not even take up another special summon or a normal summon. For the 1-ofs in the deck, there are a good number of 1-ofs, but they each play into the strengths of the deck. The 1 plugin, which can summon any of the Xyz monsters we run, including our Zodiac and Evilswarm ones. The 1 Ryzeal Cross, another searcher as well. The 1 Infestation Pandemic, which I love for the fact that the Duo Drive and the Ophion have this in common, just being able to search out these 1-of spells in the deck. And then lastly, the 1 copy of Zodiac Barrage. It is a 1-of. There may be a chance this card could come off the ban list again, giving us a little more power to this very awesome deck. But for now, we'll just stick to a 1-of option for this card, being able to target a face-up card you control, destroy it, and special summon a Zodiac monster from your deck. And then lastly, for the traps, running 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. It's the only trap we run in the deck, just like the other hand traps. It was pretty good just for consistency to add to this very powerful deck. I don't think I mentioned how powerful this deck is, but it is a very, very powerful deck, and you want to have as much power as you can in terms of hand traps. If you have Dominance Purge, you can give it a try. It's just probably going to lock out some of your other plays in the deck, so stick to Impermanence with this version. Now, before we get to the actual extra deck, I figured I'd go over a few of my favorite Funko Pops for Yu-Gi-Oh! One of my favorites being the Silent Swordsman Level 0. This was actually a 25th anniversary exclusive for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Funko Pop lineup, so this one definitely one of my favorites there. And as you know, on this channel, I'm a big fan of Bakura, so instead of just 1 copy of Bakura, I actually have 2. I have 2, and I've been debating, opening up one of them to display it around my room. Just not sure which one I want to keep sealed. These are both pretty nice looking Bakura to have. So if you have a thought on which one you think I should open, whether it be the right or the left one, definitely do let me know down in the video description down below. But now we'll move on to the extra deck. For the extra deck lineup, we're running 1 copy of Ryzeal Detonator and the 1 copy of Ryzeal Duo Drive. They're 1-ofs because you do have to fit in a good number of different cards for the different archetypes we're running in this deck, so 1-of copies for these are fine. You have your destruction card and then your search power, and they can all attach different cards from the graveyard onto them when they're special summoned as well. For the Zodiac engine, we're running 1 copy of Zodiac Chaka 9, the 1 copy of Borbo, and the 1 Hammer Kong. Now, these were the ones I wanted to take more priority, just because they're a little stronger in the deck than the actual Ryzeal Xyz monsters. 1-of copies for each. Once again, if you ever see Broad Bull or Dryden come off the ban list, you could drop these 2 down for additional copies of those Xyz monsters. For the Evilswarms, 1 copy of Ophion and the 1 Ouroboros. You need the lockout power of Ophion. That's why we're running that card. And Ouroboros being more of a generic to work with any of the level 4 monsters we run in the deck as well. For the rest of the Xyz monsters, running the 1 Dugaris along with the 1 Baguska, the 1 Tornado Dragon, the 1 Eclipse Twins, the 1 Abyss Dweller, and then adding the 1 Sky Crisis, the 1 Utopic Future, and the 1 Draco Future to finish off the extra deck here and there. As for some of the go-to plays in the deck, if you have your best setup in the form of 1 Tenki, the 1 Bonfire, and the 1 Unexpected Die, I would say this gives you most of your plays right then and there. But I would say the ideal hand that you open up is if you get the 1 Tenki, the 1 Unexpected Die, the 1 Bonfire, and then having the 1 Mandragora, which I even considered running Lone Fire Blossom in this deck for that added play. If you want to wanted to potentially go for that. So with this hand, and this could be any other card, it could be a hand trap ideally, if you have this, you have your go-to setup for the majority of the deck. And if your opponent goes first and has a monster, all the better as well. So you start off with the Unexpected Die. Good chance your opponent's not going to open up Ash Blossom or anything like that to stop any of these. Even if they do, you have your other cards in your hand ready to go, summoning out your Heliotrope. And then, if your opponent has the 2 monsters on the field, you can special summon out the Mandragora as well. This will give you your 2 Evilswarm monsters to then overlay into your Evilswarm Ophion. You can go for the search there, or you can wait because it's just a one-of card. So as long as it's not the 5th card in your play, in your hand, you can detach 1 off of this card and search out your one-of Infestation Pandemic, which can stop your opponent from trying to imperm your Ophion with this card, because then you can just chain a response to the Pandemic for this card. The next 2 searches come in the form of Tenki, which you can use Tenki to then search out your Zodiac engine in the deck. So then you can search out your Thoroughblade, summoning out your Thoroughblade, and then using its overlay power to go into a Zodiac monster. And then the last part of the combo is using the final searcher for Bonfire to grab your go-to Pyro monster with this search, being your X Ryzeal or your go-to Ice Ryzeal. So depending on what you want to search out with these cards, you already did the normal summon for the Thoroughblade. So I would say your best play here comes from sending an additional card for that setup. You can go for one or the other. So if you go for the X Ryzeal, you avoid the normal summon, which you've already taken up, just having to send one other meaningless card from your X deck to the graveyard. Then you can use the X Ryzeal to add the one of Sword Ryzeal from your deck to your hand, giving you an additional special summon for this card to then overlay the 2 into your final go-to boss monster, being your Ryzeal Detonator. And then from there, you've accomplished the strongest Xyz board we've had in the Yu-Gi-Oh meta that's known to man. So I really hope you all enjoyed this awesome deck profile. Like I said, I feel the deck just needed updating from the last time I updated it, which was a good 10 or 12 years ago for the update of my Ryzeal Zodiac Evilswarm deck. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.